I first became aware of open access through students. It was amazing. I mean, I got an article about male mice singing, which was a news article summarizing a PLOS original research paper. I can actually go access that article. I can hear the mouse song. I can have my students hear the mouse song. You get details of how people carried out their experiments. And when kids really start asking the question, that's where they go. They go, how did they do that? The more people you have participating in the process, having access to others who do science, stimulating young people who are thinking about what to do with their future, to me, it's just obvious. It makes the best science.
What I'm holding here is a pioneering example of open access publishing. And this is a printout of the human genome. Now, of course, most people don't actually read the human genome in a book. The scientists who led the publicly funded Human Genome Sequencing Project realized that in order to maximize the impact of the genome sequence, it needed to be available to anyone who wanted it, anywhere in the world, at any time. That's why open access is so important. Research isn't finished until it's been published. And by publishing the results of the research that we fund in open access formats, it means that as many people as possible are able to have access to the literature without any hindrance at all. And that, of course, will ultimately maximize the value and the outcomes of the research that we fund.
My two children were diagnosed with a rare genetic condition called pseudoxanthoma elasticum, and even just that word drove me straight to a medical library. And when I got there, I found out, first of all, it was really hard to get in, one, you had to pay usually, and then secondly, the articles that I wanted to read, I could read while I was at the library, but I couldn't read any other time, which was quite remarkable to me. As parents of two kids with a disease and as somebody who was founding a support group, I couldn't understand how was I supposed to go forward if I couldn't get the information I needed. I've learned that for patients, for families, for individuals who are affected by genetic diseases, and for their providers, open access is going to be the key to transforming health, that we're finally going to be able to get what we need because we all understand the basic information and are able to work together to bring real health forward.
The reason for open access is to make content available. And in this World Wide Web age that we have, making content available means making it searchable for smarter tools that sort of go beyond Google. I favor the evidence-based approach to taking care of my patients. And what that means is basing the care of my patients on the best available research results. Now, research results actually are available almost exclusively in medical journals. I consider the best open access journals to be equal to the most prestigious top-tier non-open access journals. I think the case is particularly strong for clinical trial results to be an open resource to the world. Patients participate in trials because they want to contribute to a better understanding of human health and disease. They want to contribute to the public good. I mean, many patients literally give of their blood to contribute to the public good. We owe it to the patients who participate in clinical trials that the results of their contributions be made available to all without restriction.
The status quo of scholarly publishing has been a barrier for many researchers. It limits availability of scholarly content based on the wealth of the institution that they're at. The people who have the most money have the most access. I've been lucky to work at both large research institutions and smaller liberal arts institutions. I've been at both private and public institutions as well. And I've found that there's a broad range of access across those different types of institutions. And I think we really need to take a look at that and think about whether we want to retain that kind of a system or whether we want to invite all scholars, regardless of the size of institution or the wealth of the institution, to join the same scholarly communication. I think open access could democratize scholarship worldwide in ways we can only dream of, and through it invite new minds to help answer old questions.
So for me personally, since I've typically had access to a research library through a university, it's usually not a question of being absolutely unable to access research. More commonly, it's a question of the barrier to being able to access that research. Most of the articles that I'm interested in will ultimately be available through an interlibrary loan. But of course, this is a process that takes significant investment of time on my part and on the library's part. It's difficult to know how much effort I'm willing to invest in a particular article without having the ability to sort of browse the figures and maybe some of the body of the text. The abstract is often not enough. So if there's a way to make that more efficient, then that really has a large impact. The research enterprise in the US and across the world is actually a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, and any savings in efficiency really translate quite directly into savings for taxpayers and time savings for researchers, and that ultimately means more discoveries sooner for less money. The critical aspect of open access for me is that increased discoverability and browsability really will lead to greater efficiency of conducting research.